This is the first clip I want to play is from act.tv. It is a clip of protest that took place outside of Joe Manchin, Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, and his yacht. Now, I did not even know this man had a yacht. The absurdity of it all. A man who's riding around and owns a yacht, keeping America from getting everything that we need, from voting rights to an infrastructure bill. These are the voices of the protesters that stood outside of Joe Manchin's yacht, and this footage is from act.tv. And I want to identify a couple of the protest groups that are a part of this. The Young West Virginia, Race Matters West Virginia, Center for Popular Democracy Action, CASA, and Greenpeace USA. Let's take a listen to the protesters.
It shouldn't be this hard to get our elected officials to work for us.
Well, especially because West Virginia has been really hurt by COVID. It's going to be really hurt by the climate crisis.
People were barely keeping their heads above water before, and if we don't get this aid, our state is going to be in much worse shape than before. We want a home that is safe and equitable and where we have health care and our businesses are supported. All of this is within reach. We just need our elected officials to listen to us.
I never realized how fragile democracy and freedoms are. I have other things I should be doing in West Virginia, but I'm here today because I want to testify to the fact that there was someone standing up for people in West Virginia, because from what we hear, Joe Manchin's not listening to us. He could have a legacy of a man who fought for the average person, but instead he's fighting for big pharma and big money. That's not who West Virginians are. He should fight for Medicare and extended health benefits, because in West Virginia we have one of the largest elderly populations.
Brother Galloway, Anthony, the imagery of those tugboats protesting against the Goliath of his yacht, and for him to be standing in the way. We have other clips, but I just wanted to get your thoughts right there.
So I'm having a little audio issue on my side. I'm not able to hear the B-roll. So you're going to have to help me with some of the things that they said. I want to point out, though, that some folks may be looking at these images out of West Virginia and seeing the multiracial group that's there. My family's from West Virginia. So, there's this really interesting intersection in Appalachia between black communities and Appalachian poor white communities that I think is wonderful space for some of the intersection and challenges between folks. But I just want to point out, look at the multiracial group of folks who are trying to call out what they see as something that doesn't compute. Now, I also understand that Joe Manchin's in a very precarious space because part of his success in even being in office from West Virginia is being able to walk this line. And so he may feel that this is part of that line that he has to walk in order to be reelected. And of course, this is part of the challenge, right? Is you have a yacht, and yet a bunch of folks are seeing the kind of infrastructure that we saw in the FDR time frame in the Eisenhower time frame of the Public Works Administration, right?
That's right.
Trying to put folks to work and get out of this major thing that has happened to our country. And so it makes sense that you would see some folks stepping out and saying, hey, you're standing in between me getting some of the relief that I need. And let me also point out that, again, in here is a trope that I think we need to uncover before it becomes a dog, too much more of a dog whistle. And that is this idea of entitlement. All right, this idea of this folks becoming dependent on a handout or anything like that. That just isn't true in any of the data, right? Even for the folks who work, the idea that people are just sitting, this idea of the person just sitting there subsisting off of government handout is just not true. Folks work, and folks work hard. And folks work hard and aren't paid their worth. And so, and that's just borne out across the data. And so that also I see kind of happening in the background here.
It's funny because even though you couldn't hear the audio, you actually just completely nailed the essence of what they were saying in the protest. And then actually you extended it even further because the next clip is of Joe Manchin as he basically says that he's not going to accept an economy or a society that has an entitlement mentality. Literally, word for word, what you were just saying. Let's take a look at that clip.
Means testing means that are we targeting the people that need it or getting it, or the people getting it that maybe could do without? I mean, they're in pretty good shape. Work requirements, those are all very, very important. So you have the beginning of life, our children. Pre-K, yes. Then you have the end where our senior citizens want to live in the dignity and respect of their own home. We can do that with some assistance. And again, some can pay a little bit, and some can't pay any. That's means testing. I cannot accept our economy or basically our society moving towards an entitlement mentality. I'm more of a rewarding, because I can help those who really need help if those who can help themselves do so. I've never been a liberal in any way, shape, or the form. There's no one has ever thought I was. I have voted pretty consistently all my whole life. I don't fault any of them who believe that they're much more progressive and much more liberal. God bless them. And all they need to do is we have to elect more, I guess, for them to get theirs, elect more liberals. My top line has been 1.5 because I believe in my heart that what we can do and what the needs we have right now and what we can afford to do without basically changing our whole society to an entitlement mentality.
What an absurd moment that the progress of not only this country, but dare I say humanity, is at the mercy of such a mediocre white man, Brother Galloway.
you always gonna toss me. You always toss me a whole bag. All right. So, and thanks. I could hear the audio that time. Just on some technical pieces, means testing is something that is a part of every single thing that comes through. Nobody. This is again, calling to something that isn't real. Everything is means tested. There's nobody who means tests more than the U.S. government under any administration, because at some point somebody's got to turn around and account for whether or not something got spent right. And so that red tape is long and it's huge, and nobody's ever going to be out of means testing. And so to bring that forward, again, comes to this trope that somehow folks don't work for what they've got. And then I have no problem with being in a society of entitlement. We do the work, we write the bills, we pay the money, and we expect that to come back to us in ways that are going to help us. And so I think there's a really philosophical shift here, right? Now, I have a particular bent on it because I come from a faith tradition where somebody very important kicked out money changers in a temple where he used to learn as a child, and then invited who? Children and the old and the folks who are in need, and then didn't have a question about whether or not that need is yours, because that's between you and your God. Right. And so that piece, I think, is challenging. And then this idea that I've never been a liberal, I think needs to zoom out a little bit, because we're talking about it in the myopic context of the United States. We are a liberal society. And so, the call out there is not to the technical term of the liberal. That call out is to a very specific group of folks, which I think is another dog whistle. It's another dog whistle for folks who are trying to move some different accountability and standing in the way of it. Let's just be clear. If I have two opposing sides and I can be somebody who neither side can count fully on their own, that comes with power. And that's how part of our two-party system sets up folks to have power, just by not going all the way along with either side. And Senator Manchin and other folks have kind of used that throughout the years to amass certain amounts of power.